I make this cake for myself, not my children. I mean, they can have some, but, This is a super moist, dense chocolate cake with my favorite homemade frosting, Italian meringue. Think of it as marshmallow frosting. In fact, as a matter of semantics, I think Italian meringue might actually be marshmallow frosting. We'll come back to that. Hey, this recipe is sponsored by Squarespace. Whether you're building a new professional website for your new cake baking business or something, or if you're doing a full-on online store, Squarespace is your one-stop shop. It's got the marketing tools, the analytics, and the easy design features to help you build a gorgeous online presence and run your business. For this devil's food style cake, I start with a cup of milk in a big saucepan and bring it to a boil. Then turn off the heat and whisk in Dutched cocoa powder. That's the kind of cocoa powder that makes everything taste like an Oreo. Yum. I think that you should use a cup and a half of Dutch cocoa powder. I was trying to see if I could jam 2 whole cups into this recipe, and the answer is an emphatic no, you can't. It was so thick that it stuck to the pan, and I literally had to deglaze with a little bit more milk to keep it from burning. And the whisk just turned into this solid baseball bat of undissolved cocoa. Don't use that much. A cup and a half is good. Off the heat it comes. This step of blooming the cocoa in hot liquid really does intensify the flavor of the finished cake. I have confirmed that via experimentation. We need to cool this off to the point where the eggs won't scramble in there when we mix them in, so in the meantime, we'll grab a high-quality 4-ounce chocolate bar and chop it up into little pieces. I like to have some solid chocolate chunks in the cake. You could use chocolate chips, I think they're too big. Okay, into the pan goes a cup and a half of brown sugar, or you could do white sugar plus a dab of molasses, because that's literally all brown sugar is. Then the key ingredient, a whole 8-ounce tub of sour cream. I hate sour cream, but as an ingredient in chocolate cake, it is magic. Makes it so moist and dense. Trying to light for jet black cocoa and snow white sour cream in the same shot is apparently impossible. All right, 1 cup of vegetable or any neutral oil goes in. I really prefer oil over butter as my main fat source in chocolate cake. Butter tends to make the texture dry. A splash of vanilla goes in, then I'm cracking my 4 eggs in last, on top of all of the other ingredients to protect them from the heat of that pan. Then whisk everything together. Even if the pan is still quite hot, I'm pretty sure the sugar and fat molecules in there would get between the egg proteins and prevent them from curdling. It is hard to mix bloomed cocoa in with other stuff, especially if you've used way too much and it's all stuck inside your whisk like that, but just do the best you can. Little lumps will bake out. Then, just 1 cup of flour goes in, and half a teaspoon each of baking soda, baking powder, and salt. If you don't like slightly salty chocolate, then use a 1/4 teaspoon, but no less. Chocolate tastes really flat without at least a little salt. Whisk that in, and whisk in your chocolate chunks. This is a really sticky batter, and the best way to make sure that your cake doesn't stick to the pan and break on the way out is to use a parchment round. Here's how to make one. Take a sheet of parchment paper and fold it over once. Then turn it 90 degrees and fold it over again. Fold it over into a triangle, then again in the same direction into a thinner triangle. Turn the pan upside down and eyeball the length of the radius. Cut off the excess, being conservative, because if you unfold this and it turns out to be too big, you can just fold it back up again and shave off a little bit more. Perfect. Now I'll spray the inside of the pan. That will help the parchment stick to the bottom in addition to lubricating the sides where I'm not bothering to put any parchment. You'll need 2 9 or 10-inch cake pans prepared this way. You could pour the batter in on a scale to get the 2 cakes completely even, but I just turn the spatula around and use it as a dipstick. If one pan is a little bit deeper than another, you can just spoon over the excess batter. In the oven they go at 350 Fahrenheit for about 40 minutes. I think the time is going to be really variable, but bake them until a toothpick comes out clean. Let them cool all the way down before depanning. Here's why I don't think you need parchment around the edges. You can just run a knife around the edge. And now when you turn that out, nothing could possibly stick to the pan. Peel the parchment off and those are perfect. Time to make that frosting. You need 4 egg whites, not a speck of yolk in there or they won't beat up. You could use those yolks to make the opposite of an egg white omelet, I guess. You want to know how that looks? Stick around to the end of the video. Into those, I'm going to put half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Acids help with the beating of egg whites. Then a half teaspoon of cornstarch. That's traditional in some kinds of meringue, not usually Italian meringue, but I find that it keeps the water in the frosting from separating out and being absorbed by the cake, which can happen after a day or two. Now, into a small saucepan goes a cup of sugar and half a cup of water. Also, if you've got it, a squeeze of corn syrup. That's a monosaccharide. The cane sugar is a disaccharide. Mix the two together, and it's almost impossible for this syrup to crystallize while you're cooking it. That said, I have made many syrups with just sugar and water, and most have come out totally smooth and fine. Turn that on high heat, and while it gets hot, beat the egg whites until you get floppy peaks like this. When the syrup hits anywhere between 240 and 245 Fahrenheit, you're ready for the tricky part, which is to drizzle the hot syrup into the egg whites while simultaneously beating them. Don't burn yourself. Boiling syrup is like a freaking chemical weapon. Then you just keep beating this for 3 or 4 more minutes until it doesn't seem to be taking on any additional volume. Then I just do a tiny splash of vanilla because I don't want to spoil that snow white color. Look at this beautiful, fluffy stuff. Cake frostings are usually just too rich for my taste, but this has no fat in it whatsoever. You want to work with it while it's still a little bit warm, otherwise it won't spread smoothly. First cake goes on the plate, frosting on top, then next cake goes on, and spoon all of your remaining frosting on top. You will need the whole recipe's worth. Just let it fall down around the sides as you smooth the top. And because I am a child, I like multicolored sprinkles on top. They do make a nice textural counterpart against the soft frosting. That is a big chocolate snowball of fun right there. As you cut out a piece, you'll see the meringue is still really soft and fluffy at this stage, which is nice, but by tomorrow it will set into something more like a marshmallow, which is really what I prefer. And yes, I think technically this is marshmallow. Marshmallow is an aerated syrup stabilized with protein, usually gelatin or traditionally mucilage derived from the eponymous marshmallow plant, but plenty of marshmallow recipes call for egg whites, and so yes, I'm calling it Italian meringue is a marshmallow. That is just a wedge of fluffy, chocolatey happiness right there, and as good as it is right now, I really do think it's better tomorrow. After the marshmallow, there I said it, after the marshmallow and the chocolate chunks inside the cake have both had the time to solidify. Now, want to see what happened when I tried to make an omelet with those leftover yolks? I'll show you in a sec. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to let you watch while I build my new Squarespace site. My old personal website is about me as a journalist, but I guess I'm an internet cook now? Not sure how that happened. Anyway, I need a new site for that, and a lot of these Squarespace templates are uniquely suited to image-based designs. I'm going to be able to build pages around some big, beautiful pictures of my food. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to take your site live, go to squarespace.com/Ragusia and enter the offer code Ragusia. You tell them I sent you and you'll save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. Now, let's make that egg yolk omelet. That's gotta be a thing, right? Little bit of pepper, salt, and milk, beat it up, butter in the pan, and whoa, that is curdling up real fast. Maybe because there's so much less water in the yolks. I guess I'll grate on some nice sharp cheddar and fold it over, and that does not look so nice. Fixed it! The texture is surprisingly spongy. I was expecting more of a gooey texture since yolks have so much fat in them. But I gotta say, that tastes way better than it looks. It's really rich and decadent. I think I'm gonna have to play with some way to make that look as nice as the cake from whence it came. Let's end on one more gratuitous cake shot.